I'll go ahead and check it over there. So while you're getting that out, Hayden, same for you.
What did I have to show you again?
Remember, because you didn't do yours in complete sentences.
Something like that. Oh, yeah,
Much better. Make sure you're doing complete sentences. Alright.
Wait,
Yes.
so if you don't fully complete your homework and then you do it correctly the next night, do you still get a homework offense?
For me,
Because I saw you do that like yesterday, you crumbled it up and threw it in the trash.
yeah. Okay, for me, because it depends on what you're doing for it. For this one, I'll think about it, but sometimes the students, they do the wrong work. So if you do, because you still did work, you just did the wrong one, so it's one of those, okay, you're trying, you just didn't do the proper one. So because if that's come, I'll tell them, I'll throw it away and throw it in the trash, because they did work, they just did the wrong stuff. So that's like for them, they get a chance to redo basically, because they tried it. Yeah, I'll think about it. But you should always answer in complete sentences. And you should never write, I don't know, as an answer.
I
Ever.
was going to do
Ever.
that, but I'm glad I didn't.
Never.
I didn't.
Alright, well, let's go over these now. Alright, so you were to match each description with the correct field of study. So studying giraffe herd behavior, what would that be? Jaden.
F,
Good job. So that would be?
zoology.
Good job. Don't just write like F. Like make sure. Well, I mean like for this, but make sure you know what the term is as well for it. So
Yeah,
you're right. F, zoology. All right. Number 2. Which one is that? Studying the internal divisions of the human body. Evie. A, which is
Anatomy.
perfect. Number 3. Study oak tree variety.
B,
B, which is
botany.
perfect. Study resistance of microscopic disease-causing organisms to medicine. This is a little bit harder. Glenn. What? I just couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
D,
D, which is
microbiology.
good job. And then studying how the brain functions. Lana.
E,
Good job, which is
physiology.
physiology or how something functions. So good. How many of you got all that perfect?
Oh.
I
Good.
didn't know what floor was, so I
So, did you write I don't know on homework?
It wasn't.
Yeah, I know. It was class work. We just tried. But yeah, you're right. But for that one, to make a note, since it's microscopic or single cell releasable organism, that one's D. Alright, so let's do the think about it. Yes.
I asked 5.
It's okay. How the brain functions or how it works. That's how you figure out. Well, C, do you remember what ecology is? This is a good review. Another reason why we use this, right?
It's the study how things work together.
Like in their environment. So if you're looking at how the brain functions, is that part of the brain working with the environment? What? No, we're just looking to see how it functions. So for this one, ecology is how living things interact with each other and their environment. So it doesn't quite fit with how the brain works. Okay.
I thought number 1 was E.
For
Or no, ecology. I thought ecology was number 1.
that one, some of these do see, I'm just gonna like something that they can have possible answers for it. So that one, studying giraffe herd behavior, I can see how herd would throw you off. It wanted you to mainly focus on zoology, but for quizzes and tests, they'll be a lot clearer to say which ones am I specifically looking for. But yeah, some of them look kind of similar, like it could be one way or the other. Alright, anyone else have any other questions though about it? Alright, think about it. Write a letter to the correct choice in the link. Koalas are marsupials commonly found in eastern Australia. Koalas spend almost all of their time in the eucalyptus trees on which they feed, usually come down only to move to a new tree. Which term best describes the koala's habitat? Hayden.
arboreal or boreal.
Good job. Arboreal or B. Good job, because they do mainly stay in the trees. Now, your book points out that yes, they do go to the ground, but they mainly stay in the trees. Number 2, great white sharks are in the kingdom, Animalia, phylum, chordata, class. Whew, Latin's been a while. Chondrichthyes, order Lamniformes, family Lamnida, genus Carcharodon, and species Carcharis. What is the great white shark's scientific name? Alright, let's just take a survey first off. How many of you think it's A? Okay. How many think it's B? How many think it's C? How many think it's D? We'll say most people think it's A. Alright, why is it A, Scott? Good job. So remember, the scientific name is the genus and the species. You could have went, well, that's the only one that's italicized, so I'm going to pick that. You Okay, that also works. But just make a note though that it is the genus and the species. That's the only one that is written out correctly. Number 3, which of the following animals is most likely to be found in a meadow environment? The activity book understands that, okay, you could find pretty much all of these animals there in like a weird circumstance, but on a typical day, which one is most likely to be found? Jaden.
D, a rabbit?
Yeah.
What? I thought it said which of the animals is not likely instead of most likely, and I
Okay.
put it wrong.
Okay,
But now
yeah.
since you said that, I was like, oh yeah, it's a rabbit.
Yeah, so it's one of those, okay, most likely on a typical day, rabbit. Now, could you find all those animals there on a weird day? Okay, yes, if there's a weird circumstance, then yes, you could. That's what I'm saying, most likely to be found, rabbit. Alright, Davian has been hearing a strange noise outside his window for the past several nights. In the morning, there is animal tracks under the window, but the animal itself is nowhere to be seen. Which word best describes the animal that Davian has been hearing? Evie.
Nocturnal.
Good job, because nocturnal means
During the night.
good job. And then number 5, how would a brown bear and a mountain lion be classified? This was more of a thinking question. Alright, Lana. It's kind of hard, I will give you that.
Same kingdom, different species.
Perfect, that is it. Alright, why is that? Why is it that, Jaden? You were
They're
saying.
both animals, but one's a bear and one's a cat or a lion.
Yeah, you're right that for them, now keep in mind, are brown bears and mountain lions, can they both be considered carnivores?
Yes.
They can both. Now technically, a bear is typically considered an omnivore, but they're in the mammal class, well, the class mammal, and then they're in the order carnivore or carnivora. Now, they have the 2 different species though. You have the bear species, and then you have the cat or lion species. And so that's how come, for this one, they're in the same kingdom, but they're 2 different species. And the only one that works for all those possibilities is letter A. Alright, anyone have any questions about that? Alright, you can go ahead and put that away. Let's go ahead and let's play a review game really quick. We'll talk about your practice essay in a little bit because your test is coming up and my test have essays on the back, and I want to give you some practice over how I'm grading the essays so that way you can see, because who's your English teacher? Jaden.
Miss Anderson.
I'm about to say, oh my, it's not me. But yes, it is. But I want you to just be aware of what I'm looking for in my essays. Now, I'm not Mrs. Henderson. I'm not going to go through and meticulously look for all the different parts for it. But I want you just to be aware. But go ahead and take out a piece of paper so we can write down things you don't know as you're getting ready. We played this game before. You know what you're doing. You know what's happening. So, first person to raise their hand after I say go, after I say the question, you get it right, you get to pick a number. I don't remember where I put it, if I forgot that I put it somewhere at all. Which hasn't happened, I think it only happened one time where I accidentally deleted it. I think that was like a one-time thing.
Wait, so it's in the same spot as it was when
I don't remember. I don't remember which slide of it. A lot of them I preset, so that way I have it saved, so I don't have to go pick the morning of. Sometimes throughout the year, I'll pick different ones, but a lot of these are pre-saved, so I don't remember where I put it. I honestly don't. Like I said, I think I only deleted it by accident one
So
time.
it kind of gives them an advantage because they might remember something about where it might be or
Probably
where.
not. Like I said, it could be in the same spot as it was last time, could be an entirely different spot. I don't remember. I don't remember which slide I grabbed. Alright, so thinking back over it, what is the science of classification? Go. Alright.
Taxonomy?
What was it?
Taxonomy?
Taxonomy is correct. Alright, pick a number.
27.
27. Alright, what is, or who came up with the word species? Go. With Jaden again, Jaden's fast.
John Ray.
John Wright.
34.
34. Alright, what do you term it means a distinct type of organism? Pretty much everyone at once. Go. Alright, that was Hayden.
Species?
Species.
32.
32.
What?
Ha!
That's the same spot Lana found it.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Well, if it is the same spot, then if I pick go farther down in my slides, then pick the farther down.
What's that?
Wasn't that the one that nobody got to taste candy for? Because
Maybe. Maybe so. I said, I don't remember where I put them.
Same one Lana got.
Well, this one should be in a different row. This one should be in a different spot. Alright, so what is, who's remembered as the, alright, who came up with the better system, or who is known as the father of taxonomy, because we use his system of classification today? Go. Cheater? Cheater. Let's go. Good job. What's his first name? Yeah, Carolus Linnaeus. Alright.
28.
Alright, so what was one of his first original kingdoms? Remember, he came up with two.
Oh.
Go. Alright, that was Danielle.
Animal.
I'll take it. Yep. So, Animalia is a Animalia or Animal Kingdom, but Animalia.
22.
22. Alright, what is the other kingdom then? Go. Okay, I think it was Jane and Barry.
Plantain?
Planky.
2.
Let's see. Alright, so those were his original two kingdoms. We have added on 4 more since then. Okay, I know, we gotta go over them. Alright, so what is the kingdom that has plant-like organisms, but they don't make their own food? These are like the mushrooms and toadstools, so that should help you out.
Why did you tell them that?
It'll help them.
No, I need more.
Go.
See, now they always are.
Okay, good job. I can't hear him. Say it again. 17. Alright, what is another kingdom that has mostly single-cell organisms? This one was kind of tricky. Go. Scott. Protista. If you don't know it, better write it down. 18. Alright, what's another one that contains the real bacteria? Or true bacteria? Go. I think it was Lana Berry. Archie?
Oh. I know it started with a K, right?
So, did you bacteria? Yep, that's correct. Eubacteria, that's the real bacteria. That's the ones that, when we would say are the real bacteria, the ones that cause disease. Alright, what do you call the kingdom that contains the bacteria that can survive in extreme environments? Go. Okay, that was Scott. Say it again? Yep, Archaebacteria. 14. Alright. Alright, let's go over Linnaeus' classification system. So going from most broad to most specific. Alright, most broad, we'll start with that one. Most broad, we'll start with this. Go. Okay, Evie. Kingdom. Alright.
11.
Alright, so kingdom, what's the next one? Excited. Oh my. Go. What was the name? Phylum. Pick a number. Alright, kingdom, phylum, what's the next one? Go.
Class.
Good job.
30.
Kingdom, phylum, class, what's the next one? Go. Okay, come on. Order.
Ah!
16.
Oh.
Kingdom, phylum, class, order, what's the next one? Go. Gather faster, Evie. What was it?
I
Family.
didn't remember this.
You
I do.
remember?
I know.
Okay.
13.
Guess people studied last night. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family. What's the next one? Go. Alright,
Genus.
genus.
Holy crap, it took forever. 1.
Alright, last one. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus. That's not a palm on the desk.
Glenn. Cheater.
Only I can call people cheaters. Go. Species.
5.
Alright. think they can do it all by themselves.
Wait, can we just do like we did last time when we
Wait.
each one of us has a number?
No, 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 I'm just asking, like, just who thinks that they can just, alright, first person, raise your hand after I say go. Who thinks that they can do the whole thing, kingdom all the way down to species, all the way, without any help whatsoever, they can do the whole thing. Your hands up when I say go, then.
You said it.
No, no, I don't think
Aw, dang it.
Go. Okay, now go.
Kingdom, file, class, order, family, genus, species.
Perfect, good job. Okay. No more.
What is that?
Not quite. Alright. We still covered more things yesterday though. So, who is the father of the scientific method? Go. Your hand. Scott. Sir Francis Bacon.
Oh, bacon.
You can think of it as bacon with scientific method that helps you. Cool.
Oh,
27.
27.
bacon.
Alright, you got a question, Jaden? Alright. What do you call facts about nature? Go. Okay, Jaden. Who's really uncertain.
Wait, facts about nature?
Yep, facts about nature. There's a special term we use for it. Observing.
Hypothesis.
No,
Observation?
not observation.
Research.
Nope. Data. But yes, remember, there's only one thing.
Oh.
Data. So, just be careful. Alright, remember, that's facts about nature. So, if you didn't know it, write it down. Alright, what do you call... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
25.
25. Alright, what do you call a sensible explanation to your question, or your educated guess, or what you think is going to happen? Go. Cheater. Okay, see what you do.
Hypothesis.
That's the hypothesis.
9.
Jaden, you're gonna see the hypothesis stuff, just so things happen. Alright, what was it?
9.
Alright, alright, there are the 3 major steps to the scientific method, so don't be cheating on these yet. So, what is the first major step of the scientific method? Go. I'm appreciate it.
Oh, research. Looking.
If someone can get more exact than looking, I have to give it to them, but you have the right idea.
Searching.
Okay, that's still good, but that's still very good. He's next. No, Jaden.
Observing, hypothesizing, experimenting.
I was named one. Name the first one, which is observing. Okay, so observing. So you have the right idea, Glenn, for looking around, but yes, observing. Okay.
33.
Alright. What is, if you're thinking about the 6 smaller steps of the scientific method, I know, but if you cheat now, it's not going to help you on quizzes later. What is the first step to the scientific method? Go. Okay, that was on. Ask a question or state the problem. 8. Alright, what's the second major step? Well, I'm sorry, second for the 6 smaller steps. What's the second one? Go. Okay, that was Danielle.
Research.
Research or gather information.
36.
36. What is the third step? Go. Alright, Glenn. Make a hypothesis. 3. The odds are getting in y'all's favor now. What is the 4th step to the scientific method? Go. Okay, I think that was Scott. Experiment. And I think you are going to see next class. Alright, and then what is the 5th step to the scientific method? Go. Cheater.
Me?
Nope, yes, well, I'm choosing you.
Data. Getting data. So you get data and you write so data as in all the characteristics in it.
You said wrote data, I'll take it. But yes, record and analyze your data.
12.
Alright, last step. Go. Eating. Yeah, so report results or state your conclusions.
6.
6. Alright. Alright, we'll finish this however we can find the treasure chest even though I'm technically out of questions. What do you call a water environment? Go.
Aquatic. 23.
23. Alright, what do you call the area between the highest tide and the lowest tides? You have tide pools that can be there, but what do you call that area? Go. Scott. Oh, which one? Good job.
19.
Alright, what do you call ponds, lakes, rivers, and streams? So an environment that doesn't have a lot of salt. Go. Alright, it was easy there. Freshwater. Was that 24? What do you call the hot springs in the ocean floor that help warm the water around it? Go. That was Jaden.
Thermal vents.
Say it one more time.
Hydrothermal vents.
Good job.
26.
Close.
What in the world?
Alright, what do you call an environment and that refers to a saltwater environment? Go. Okay, that's Glenn.
Marine.
That's Marine.
29.
29.
Oh.
Alright. Going back. What do you call an animal that lives mainly in trees? Go. Cheater.
I'm not
You
cheating.
had your hand up
It
before
was
I
like,
said it.
this.
I saw it up.
I'm bored.
Abort.
34.
34. Yes.
I think you
I
forgot.
might have. I don't remember at
Let's
all.
see.
But if it's not up there, then everyone gets a piece of candy or emotional trauma. Alright, what do you call an animal that is active during the day? Go.
Diurnal and 32. Well, there's only 4 numbers left.
I'm getting nervous because I don't remember. What do you call an animal life? So remember, not just living organisms, animal life specifically. Go. Okay, that was Danielle. What was it? Fauna. You sure? Yes, you're right.
10. No. Oh, I was going to pick that!
Aw, well Danielle gets your candy. Alright.
Oh.
Alright, go ahead and get up another piece of paper so that you can practice over how to go over the essays for it. Alright, so now if you're going to have an essay, you must have a topic sentence. So you're in 7th grade English. I don't know if Mrs. Henderson has talked about it yet or not, but what is a topic sentence? Anyone remember or know already? Alright, Hayden.
A topic sentence is like the first sentence of a paragraph that tells you what your report or thing is going to be about.
So if I were to say, write an essay about the 3 different types of symmetry, what would be a good topic sentence? Anyone think they know?
There are 3 main types of.
Yeah, that would be a good topic sentence. Anyone else think they got another one, or does anyone think they have another one?
Symmetry. Oh, wait, is it asymmetry?
There's asymmetry, which is a type, and then there's just symmetry.
Which one is
Symmetry.
Oh, never mind. I thought you said asymmetry.
No, well, if I were to ask you to write an essay about the 3 different types of symmetry, what would be a good topic sentence?
Symmetry can be divided. Well, it cannot be divided.
Okay, you're getting specific and you're thinking about which one and exactly. So yeah, that would be a good topic sentence. I would say that's probably the easiest one that Lana thought of would be, there are 3 different types of symmetry. And then you start going into them and start actually saying what they are. Which, anyone remember what is a type of symmetry?
Bilateral.
Okay, that's bilateral. What is bilateral?
It can, like with humans, you can divide it down the middle and have one of each on each side.
Okay, yeah, so you
Or
have the right
practically
side.
half of them.
Yeah, have like the right side and the left side be the same. And you did good also saying an example would be another example for bilateral symmetry. Oh, another example for a bilateral symmetry. So people, yeah, so animals typically. Alright, what's the second type? Anyone remember? Alright, just get out. Radial, and then what would be, and then if you were to say what a radial is. Yeah, so you can cut like a pizza pie. Now, an example for like an animal would be like a starfish or like a sunflower, basically a circle type of organism. And then what's the last type? Glenn, you were saying this earlier. What was that?
Asymmetry.
Yeah, asymmetry. And what would be the example, Hayden?
An asymmetry cannot be divided into equal halves.
Mm-hmm. And then what would be an example organism? Anyone remember? Okay.
An amoeba or a tree.
Good job. Alright, so that's what we're gonna practice with. So that way you have practice of it, so this is your chance to write in science class. So you can see how I want it. So go ahead and write down what the topic sentence would be for the 3 different types of symmetry. And then you should have 7 sentences total. 1 sentence saying what the different type of symmetry is, and 1 sentence saying an example for it. If you want to look in your book on page 7, you can, but you want to go ahead and get practice with it. So go ahead and get started. We'll go around and check, I'll go around and we'll check, and I'll ask people to help out in a minute. Yes?
Wait, what are we doing? Are we writing an actual essay thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right now. Write your topic sentence. Write your 7 sentences total, because since there's 3 different types of symmetry, you should have the definition for it. So bilateral is this, and then here's an example for bilateral. Then you have radial. Here's an example for it. And then here's the asymmetry. So you should have 7 sentences total by the time you add up that topic sentence plus 2 sentences for each. Yes, Lana?
What should I have?
This is just practice if you want to write practice essay number 1, because your test is coming up. That's part of the reason why we're practicing writing the essays. This is possible essay number 1. I'll give you another one probably tomorrow or Thursday, so you can see what the other possible essay is. Which will help you to get started for your test coming up, so you don't get freaked out whenever you see write an essay on the back. What am I writing? Just to help you get started. Any questions, Danielle?
Yeah, what if we don't remember one of them?
It's okay. What did I say for like your book? If you need to look it up, what page is on?
7?
Yeah. So you can go ahead and get out your book if you need to, and look at page 7. If you're uncertain, if you want to look it up really fast, that's okay. They also give examples on that page too. So if you're sitting there thinking, I can't think of an example, okay, let's look at the book. It's okay. That's why we practice with these essays first off, so it's not like surprise on your test. Yes.
Do you have to put the symmetry in order, or does
It
have to
doesn't
be
matter
like
as long as you
bilateral?
have the correct definition. Like, don't say bilateral doesn't have any type of symmetry. So as long as you're going to where, okay, here's radial, here's the correct definition, here's an example. You can go asymmetry first, you can go bilateral last, it doesn't matter. But just make sure to keep your proper definitions with it. Give me about 5 minutes or so, because some people write slow. Then we'll go over them. It's okay. It depends on why we practice in class. At least for these first couple. Later on, I'll probably just assign them as homework. Then you go practice then.
Okay.
Makes sense, yeah.
Do we like the certain type of symmetry and then write what does, like when you cut bilateral in half, then how do you use an example of a sentence after that?
So, like say, an animal or an organism that has bilateral symmetry would be like what?
Cut in half and it can be the same result on each side.
Alright, that's the definition for it. What would be an example animal that has bilateral symmetry?
A dog.
Yeah. So, if you're saying, okay, bilateral symmetry is the type of symmetry where if you cut it in one plane or in one type of angle, you can get mirror images on the right and left side. That's the definition for it. You also want to give an example for it. So an example would be like a dog or like a cat or like a person. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes or so, so I'll give you a couple more, I'll give you about 30 more seconds. If you're not done, try to wrap it up really quick. Yes, Lynn? I'm gonna call people to read your sentences, yep. To help you get practice, remember this is for your test coming up, so don't just think I hate it or don't wanna do it. Well, you're gonna get graded on it potentially in a couple of days, if this is the essay that's on the test. So you need to get practice C, so that way it's not like surprise, you have to write in your test now. Alright, let's go over it. Alright, Edie, what do you got for your topic sentence?
There are three types of there are three main types of symmetry.
Good job, so that's a good topic sentence. Alright, what did you start with?
Like, topic sentence?
Okay, topic sentence, and then what type of symmetry did you start with?
The symmetry is organisms can be divided into three groups. Bilateral symmetry can be divided into equal parts.
Good job. So this bilateral is whenever they can only be cut one way to create a right or left side. Alright, now what would be the example for that one? Scott, what do you have for your sentence?
Bilateral symmetry is like,
Okay, no, so that would be an example one. Alright, what symmetry did you pick next, Jaden?
Asymmetry.
Alright.
The next set of symmetry is asymmetry. With asymmetry, with asymmetry, you can never fully cut it in half and not, like, with asymmetry can never be fully cut in half and have the same two sides.
Good job. So that works for us. So organisms cannot be cut in equal size, or you can't have a mirror image. Doesn't matter how you cut them. All right, what would be the example on it?
Example of asymmetry is an amoeba.
Good job. Or a tree. So either one works. If you just wrote amoeba, that's cool, and that's fine. If you just wrote tree, that's fine. I only need one example. All right, what's the last type then?
Radial symmetry can be divided into multiple halves.
Good job. To create mirror halves. And then what would be the example?
For example, a half of an orange can be cut many ways and still be a circular half.
Good job. So an orange or a sunflower or a starfish, a sea urchin shell, all those are examples of organisms you can cut with radial symmetry and have them be cut multiple ways and end up with equal halves. All right, anyone have any questions about how to write an essay for the test? This is practice essay number 1. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into it then on page number, all the way over on page 23. We're talking about the scientific method, talking about the different parts of it. I didn't ask about this in the review game, but I asked loosely what a hypothesis is, or was, and then what is a theory? Evie.
It's never been proven false.
Not quite. You're thinking of a law more. A law is one that's always been around, and as far as we know, is 100% true. It's never been proven false. So what is a theory, Jaden?
Something that they believe could possibly be true, but it hasn't been proven to be true yet.
Yeah, so it's been backed up by multiple experiments. It just hasn't been typically been around long enough for us to say that it's true 100% all the time. Do you have a question, Glenn, or are you just ready? You just ready? All right, what's the hypothesis then?
Huh?
What's the hypothesis then? Okay. Well, I'm glad you were ready for something.
It's speculating about that nature is undergender crystals for
Good job. Sensible explanation is a hypothesis or an educated guess. Those are all good definitions for it. Alright, your book starts walking you through over how to come up with a good scientific experiment, because if you're in 8th grade, you get to do this detail this year. If you're in 7th grade, you get to do a demonstration. We'll talk more about it after your test. That's the reason why your book wants to make sure you're super aware over what you're doing. So this first possible experiment that your book's giving as an example is you're comparing plants in clay pots and plants in plastic pots. So you're seeing which one would grow faster. So the person is asking the question, I wonder if the type of pots affect it. They do research and they decide, no one's really asked this question yet. I guess I should go ahead and I could test it at this point. So the person has to come up with a hypothesis. In your book just gives it a very general hypothesis, just saying that, okay, that if we have the plants grow at different speeds, that means that the plants are growing because of the pots. Now there's other things that they could possibly do it, but the person is looking specifically to see, okay, do the pots themselves cause one plant to grow faster than the other one? Your book points out you have to repeat the experiment several times to make sure you get the correct results over and over and over again. We're on page 23, Judy. So that's part of the reason as to how come you want to test it over and over and over again. Whenever we do our experiment, probably tomorrow now, whenever we do it tomorrow, part of it is we're going to have 3 little beans that we put in water. Why do you think we do 3 beans per cup and not just 1 bean at a time? All right. Yeah, so I back up basically because if you've ever tried to grow plants before, you know that sometimes your plants just give up the ghost and just don't want to be around, like mine. They see I take care of them and then they decide no, death. So that's part of the reason as to how come you want to have 3 of something. So just in case something bad happens, you have backups for it. Alright, your book also points out that your results might cause you to have more questions. And it gives you a couple of examples on page 23. You don't have to know the different questions, it's just pointing it out for you. So does the amount of sunlight affect the growth rate of geraniums? Does touch affect how they grow? Would a geranium produce a different number of flowers if the pot were on its side? So basically, as you experiment, you might decide you have more and more questions. Now, as a side note, the different types of pots, they don't affect plant growth. The pot is the exact. Now, if you were to have a larger pot than the other pot, Okay, then the amount of soil, but the type of pot, like the plastic or the clay, that doesn't really affect it. But your book's just pointing out, but now you know, okay, that the pot, the pots themselves, they don't affect geranium. But you might have other questions now to see how can I make them have more flowers, or how can I make them get taller. Alright, so the brain bite at the bottom of the page really quick. Alright, who wants to read that? Hayden.
Thomas Edison tried over 6,000 substances before determining that tungsten
Good
is
job.
the perfect effective filament for incandescent light bulb.
Good job. So he figured that that type of metal was the most effective for being able to transmit energy to glow on the inside of the light bulb. But he tried 6,000 substances, 6,000 experiments to figure out which one works the best before he decided that one, tungsten, works for it. It's a lot. Alright, next page. Alright, now your book is making you think a little bit harder and saying, okay, let's say we want to come up with an actual experiment. Now your book introduces a couple more terms to you, so we're going to jump down a little bit. So, you have 3 different types of variables. Alright, so do make a note, a variable is a difference or something that you can control in your experiment. Do mark what a variable is. A variable is your factors that you, as an experimenter, can control. There are 3 different types, and we'll talk through. Dependent variable is what you are watching to see, okay, does something change? If you're talking about the geranium experiment with the flowers, they were looking to see which one grew faster. So that's what you were looking at, to see which one grew faster. To determine, does a change occur? Independent variable, that's that one difference. You want to try to keep everything else the same as much as possible. How many of you have played Clue the board game before? About half of you. Alright, so in Clue, what are you trying to find? Okay, yeah, so in Clue, you're trying to find who's the murderer, the weapon that they used, and then what room that they did it in. So there's 3 different things that you're looking for, and you're trying to figure out basically who did it. Now everyone else has cards. If you've never played Clue before, different people have different cards. They'll have different weapons that they're holding, or different types of rooms that they're holding, or different types of people that they're holding. And you're trying to figure out which one is missing from everyone's hand, to figure out which one is in the little pouch in the center of the board game, because that's your murderer with the weapon, with the room card to say which room that the murderer did it in. Now, whenever you're asking questions, you can't ask just a random question. You're trying to figure out what card the person holds. Now, they can only show you one card at a time. So you have to ask your questions in a way to where you're only learning one thing at a time. My mom's really good at Clue. She can win in like 15 rounds. I don't know how, but she's able to figure it out super fast and just win. I'm really bad at Clue. I'm horrible at it. But that's part of the reason is you can only basically figure out one thing at a time. You can't figure out which room the murderer was in and who the murderer is with the same question. You have to ask your question in a way to figure out, okay, who's the murderer? Okay, now, which room did he commit the crime in? What weapon did he use? You have to figure out one thing at a time. You can't figure out all 3 at the same time with your question, otherwise you'll probably get the wrong answer. Same idea. With the independent variables, you can only have one. Only one. With our geranium and the pots experiment, the only difference between them should have been the type of pot, which in this picture they look almost the exact same. Sorry, I couldn't find a good picture for them. So, for this one, it would only, one of them was in a clay pot, one of them was in the plastic pot. That was the only difference. Everything else had to be the same as much as possible in order to figure out, okay, does the type of pot affect the plant growth? The amount of sunlight had to be the same, the amount of water had to be the same, the amount of soil that you put in it had to be the same. If you gave it fertilizer, exact same amount of fertilizer, everything had to be the exact same. So we call those controlled variables. Everything else you have to control to make sure it is exactly the same, as close as you can physically get it. That in some cases for 8th grade, whenever you do your experiments, that sometimes is the hardest part, because you got to make sure you think through everything as much as possible and try to control everything else except your one thing that you're looking at to determine, does this change my experiment? Alright, so just make a note, dependent variable, that's what you're looking at. That's the one that you're watching. That's the one you are dependent on to see, does your hypothesis, is it correct? Yes or no? Are the plants growing taller or faster, if you're talking about the geranium one? Independent variable, how many can you have, Danielle?
3.
Independent variable.
1.
One, only one. Always, 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 always one. How many, Glenn? How many, Jaden? How many? Uno. How many? How many, Scott? How many, Evie? One. What happens if you have more than one?
Then your experiment is, yeah.
Bad experiment. So you have to have only one. Only one. Alright, so just make a note of that. So those terms are at the top of page 24. So your book is just helping you just think it through. Now, you're going to have two different types of groups, and we'll see this with our experiment tomorrow because I'm running out of time. But there is the experimental groups, and then there is the control group. The experimental groups, that's the groups in which a test is being performed. So with our beans tomorrow and the nail polish, we're going to put nail polish on the beans tomorrow, and these will be our experimental group to see, because that's what we're changing. We're putting nail polish on them to see, does it affect how much they swell. So that's our experimental group. That's something that we're actually changing and actually testing. Raise your hand.
They're so tiny.
Yeah, they are really tiny. And if it works right, they'll either stay tiny or they'll start to swell. So you have to figure out probably tomorrow and Wednesday, because it'll take a while. It's not gonna be like instant. So it'll probably be on Wednesday. You'll find out if it changed or not. Okay.
Are those refried beans? They're not refried.
No, these are pinto beans.
Oh.
No, don't remember, chemistry, science labs, don't eat it. Never. Don't just go, yay, pinto beans. No. No, never. Alright, we gotta keep going. So a control group, this one, this is the one to where it doesn't have the change, and you're testing to see, okay, I have a bunch of experimental groups, I'm testing something. Here's what a normal group looks like. So you're testing to see, okay, is my hypothesis, I'm changing something, but here's what it does normally. So I want to see, is my hypothesis or is my change affecting it? So to take a note, a control group, this is a group in which the independent variable is absent. It's not tested, it's just used as a standard. Here's the normal group. Alright, now here's all my experimental groups. Here's the groups I've changed. Now I want to see, are they different compared to the control group? So that's what you're looking at. Your book points out every experiment must have at least two different groups. A good experiment has a control group plus the experimental groups. So just make a note of that. By comparing the results of the different groups, you can gain empirical evidence or scientific evidence as to whether or not your hypothesis is correct. So that's what you typically need a control group with it as well. We can start it. All right. Your book has this chart telling you good scientific habits. You don't have to memorize like which one is which and the definitions for it. It's not vocabulary. So it's not like your vocabulary list in English. So we'll go through these really quickly because these are good habits to have though. Alright, who wants to read the first one? Hayden.
Curiosity. An effective scientist is curious about the natural world and wants to learn more about it.
So thankfully, since you live in the 21st century, what can you do if you want to know about the world? Alright, Hayden?
Go online.
Go online and look it up. You have technology at your fingerprints. You can ask Siri. Now Siri is sometimes wrong, but you can ask Siri and get at least a good starting point. Alright, the second one. What is that one? Hayden. Sorry, Jaden.
No, hand up back.
We're on page 24.
Creativity.
Yep.
Creativity. An effective scientist uses creativity to develop hypotheses and design new.
Good job. So whenever you're working on your science project or your STEM project, you get to come up with your own basically demonstration or experiment. And that's sometimes I tell you to pick something that you actually like. You get to use your creativity. Okay.
STEM project?
STEM project, it's for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's a science project or a science fair project, but the new name for it is STEM.
Oh, is that the little book right here?
Yep. So you don't have to have it yet, but we'll talk about it after your test. Alright. So creativity, that's whenever you're going to come up with your demonstration. Okay.
No, it's just me.
You ready for the next one?
But you've already read.
Alright, no, I'm gonna run out of time. Alright, so just thinking back over it really quick. We'll head and stop. We'll come back and finish talking about this later. Alright, so how many independent variables can you have, Scott? One. Only one. Alright.